sometimes it takes a little bit of forced structure to instill that you're still an airman, we're still responsible 24/7, and that goes into the flow of, the 24 hours. They got called in 4 hours early, and then when we get identified in the morning, my guys didn't get any rest, their circadian rhythm. Well, we met the requirement by the AFI, period.
Right.
They are responsible professionals in the military and required to perform and report and perform as long as they're allotted the authorized time. Now that's the easy answer to throw at you, and we know that, and we're not trying to make that a process that we want to instill or involve, but at times, and it was a call that was haphazardly.
Like I would have happily wrote an LOC for every single one of them to get any sleep, send them home. Yeah, they failed. I think their failure was shared, but they failed. But my concern at that point was not how the process broke. It was, I have people that are at their 30-hour mark that are about to begin a 12-hour shift, launching aircraft, installing an engine, signing off red X's. That, for me, it was no longer about where did we fail, how did we get to this point.
Right.
It was, I'm worried someone's going to die today.
Right.
That was my biggest
That's
concern.
why we didn't make them all stay. It was a valid point, and we saw it, and we actively pursued it that way, and we didn't pursue paperwork. But on the caveat to that is we need to ensure that they understand that when they are tasked or assigned that, they need to make every attempt to change their pattern to attempt to be able to be a functioning member the next day. They're not going to be able to get that in other bases. In Korea, they're not going to get that, period. They don't care if you stayed up 30 hours and you come into work the next day hurting. You will perform your job because you were allowed this amount of time. When an entire section and the flight chief, when you sit back and look at it, the flight chief took it upon themselves to take a poll of how many hours everybody slept that day. For the individuals that may have come to you and said, hey, I'm worried about my sleep and I may have a problem, okay. But when you go to out of that versus the guys that know, hey, yeah, I didn't get as much sleep, but I could still perform, but they didn't hit you up. Well, did you take a poll to get that information just to have a stockpile? I mean, that's an approach. Is it an adequate approach? Some ways it is, some ways it's over what needed to happen.
Right.
Because they are responsible to themselves as well when they know that they're within the guidelines that they were given this, they failed to perform and do it. Now I'm going to have to make things happen and be safer and more cautious about it. I don't know how to make it sound like a good thing or a bad thing.
So when I initially brought it to you and the chief's attention that morning, the answer I got was, we'll see who we can cut back. Right. And in this mission, that's a pipe dream and it's not realistic, right? Because the mission would come first and nobody would get cut back, right? Which is why I brought it up at this meeting. So, we talked about it afterwards, and it was, okay, well, let's look at the 0 and 1 hour people. We'll try to get rid of them. And I felt that really mitigated that risk of, because after 24 hours, people are basically the equivalent of being drunk, right? But it really felt like, keep it at this level so AMXS doesn't find out what we did. I mean, we had an honest discussion in that morning meeting of, I wouldn't tell AMXS about this, right?
If we can, well, I don't remember the AMXS side of being worried about that. I was not worried about it. If I seemed like I was or I mentioned that.
I don't think it was you in particular. I think it was just the conversation.
Realistically, at the end of the day, my opinion on that was they were given ample time. They chose not to do what they're doing. Now it's impeded on the mission. So how do you correct that?
So if they're given ample time, let's say they all went home and immediately laid down in bed and they just could not sleep. At what point are they absolved of responsibility for when they fall asleep as a human being?
I don't know. What's allowed? What's given leeway for being 24/7 and allowed 8 hours uninterrupted?
Like if I get told at 5 p.m. you need to be on at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I immediately lay in bed, I get in my pajamas, I take my melatonin, I lay in bed, and I wait for sleep to come, and it doesn't.
Right.
Did I still fail? If I got into bed, I got into my pajamas.
Did I give you paperwork for that? No. Your body's going to do what your body's going to do.
So
have you not been called into work early and still perform that day?
Actually, I was on no sleep that day. I was one of the people on no sleep that day.
Right.
Right?
So I'm sure that we've all had to perform this action to ensure that we're meeting the mission.
Yeah, but my problem is, like, when pilots are flying around, we have SOC courses. We have 1-star generals, 2-star generals. I've seen 4-star generals, right? And you have a captain in the back seat and the 4-star in the front seat. It's not general and captain. It's
Right.
Buzz and Blazer or whatever, right? When the captain sees something dangerous, when he sees something that is, he lost SA or his altitude's fucked up or something's going on, he calls to knock it off, and they stop and they go, okay, it's better that we not do what we're doing now, put it on hold for a second and really assess the safety of it.
Right.
So my problem is it felt like I was trying to elevate a real legitimate safety concern, and if yeah, it might be naive of me. Maybe everybody didn't crawl into bed like I did and try to get some sleep. But if they didn't get sleep, it's a dangerous condition. If somebody died that day and I didn't fight as hard as I did,
right.
I'm not talking about me worrying about courts martial or anything. I'm talking about me as a human being knowing that in some way I was responsible for someone else's demise because I was reckless with their care,
but
which as a supervisor I felt was my responsibility.
This is not too far shot from every time we call anybody in. You have no idea if they slept or not, at all.
Fair.
And they get no warning, and they may get a call, hey man, we need you to come in 2 hours early today. You don't know what the situation was.
So
this time they were told 10 hours in advance. Before they left work, they were told,
yeah.
right around there. So to me, I have a better shot, and I feel like I've maybe even improved what the outcome could be versus just calling them 3 hours prior, hey man, you need to be to work in an hour.
So as long as we put forth the effort to notify them, it doesn't matter how much sleep they get.
Well, you can't control it. You can't be the one that says, I see everything and I forecast that this is a bad event.
So what? How many hours does it take for someone to now be unfit for duty? 72 hours, 48 hours, 50 hours?
No, I'm not. Yes. There may be a number out there, but we don't live by that. We live by the day-to-day on maintenance operations.
I would say
with no more than 10 hours without approval to go to 12-hour shifts.
Right.
So they worked they slept, they came in, they worked their 10-hour shift. Right around the 10 or 11 hours after they came into work, they were told, hey, you're going to have to be into work 10 hours from now.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks when that happens. But you as an individual, you have to put forth the effort to get the sleep. For those like yourself, they should have all attempted to do something to that because you know how you would be the next day had you not gotten any rest whatsoever.
Right.
Sleep, rest. I can't be the one that makes the judgment call that says, well, the entire flight that got called in didn't get the rest that they need, so we can't do anything. We're not afforded that opportunity, unfortunately. I've never seen it in action. I've never seen it played out that way, especially when the rules are you have to allow them the opportunity for 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. That's the practice that we stick with.
Right.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, when they choose to not get it or attempt to get it and they couldn't get it, then at that time we can go, look, man, you're looking like a zombie. Sit back and rest as much as you can while you're here, and we'll limit your work that you needed to get done, because I'm sure it wasn't everybody that needed to come in to do all of that to get anything accomplished. But that's what we can do, is once they're in, you can say, hey man, you need to go rest. We'll take you an hour, 2 hour nap or something. Try and work around what we've been dealt versus just go, this was wrong. Well, it would have been wrong the night before, but it would have been wrong to call them 3 hours prior to showing them, hey, I need you to be here in an hour, and knowing what they slept at all.
Right.
So at least got a little bit more of an opportunity to better prepare themselves for what they had to do the next day.
So the message is, if we had the intent and we met the AFI requirements, then the amount of sleep they got is immaterial. That's what I'm hearing, that we afforded them the time.
It's written in there for that rule.
Right, but
I can't get in trouble for it if I followed the rules to the T, and as an individual that is trained and told, you could be called into work, you're getting this amount of time off. What they choose to do with it, that's immaterial to you. When they came in and they're walking around like zombies, then that's when you could have been like, hey man, you going to be all right today? Yeah, I'll be fine. I didn't get much rest. Well, none of us did. And then kept an eye on it, told the expediter, hey, you need to do this. But instead we went, we went to 180 out and just said, no, we can't, these guys can't perform, they don't need to be here, we've got a huge problem. So we got a huge problem. Yes, it was a mistake that it went about that way, but you got to be able to juggle two sides of the stick, and you only went with the one side, which was, no, I don't want my guys, they can't go out and do it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
None of them had any sleep, and I took it upon myself to go, here's their hours, here's this, that, and the other, and if I got to, I'll take it up to higher ups and da-da-da-da. Well, what would that have got you? As soon as I went, sir, they were told 10 hours before, they had 8 hours opportunity to get rest. What do? What angle would he have gone? I guess the only way we would have known on that was to ask him.
Right.
So would he have canceled flying for the day? I highly doubt it.
But my whole point is I was not going to at least raise hell, because if someone died, I need to live with myself. Sure. That was the issue.
All right.
And initially it didn't feel like it was being taken seriously, and it was blaming the people for not performing their military duties of sleeping like robots.
Well, to an extent, we're robots. We come in and we work our asses off all day long, and we go home and we rest, and then we come in the next day and do it.
Mm-hmm.
If we're to the point where we think that, well, I'm never going to be called in, and if I do get called in next time, I'll just say that I don't go to sleep, and then I don't have to work. Because that's what we just instilled in them by putting that out on the plate and make them all aware.
I don't think they actually believe that.
They may not believe it, but some will. Some will be under the impression that it's okay to not go home, prepare myself for work, and then come into work the next day earlier. Who knows? But I can't enforce the basics and say, these are the rules, you need to apply as much as possible. And when you come in, I absolutely couldn't get to sleep, Sergeant McGee. I got zero rest, whatever the situation, you'll have those onesies, twosies. But it wouldn't be the entire group that came in and
because you don't often bring in an entire shop 4 hours early. When's the last time that happened?
Probably not very often.
Right?
At all.
Onesie, twosie, yeah.
And
then you can cut them out.
That portion of it, we could have probably changed that outcome a little bit and thought a little bit more thoroughly on it. But as it was brought up, it was just a response and okay, and then it was that. So I'm faulting you not at all for bringing it to our attention the next day.
Mm-hmm.
But when I sit back and I have to be like, dude, if I had this happen at any other location I've been at, we would have never gotten achieved and been able to do what we needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
How can I not expect these guys to be able to perform to make things happen when there's somebody stopping them from even attempting to make things happen? That's where I was sitting at that morning. I was like, well, this is like the most left field I've ever heard of, when the guys had to come in early. And then I get handed, well, I got a whole list of everybody, the hours they slept. Okay. At some point, I can't be the caring guy that says 100% everybody will be safe on the flight line. You send them home today and you told them to be in at 8 o'clock tomorrow, they could still get killed out on that flight line.
Right.
What I did was I threw a wrench at it by calling them in early. But did I still warrant the ability to make it as safe as I could? Yes. Other than not having to do it at all.
Right.
That was the options that the captain threw out there, and
right.
that's what direction we went with. So, like I said, I'm glad you brought it to the attention and attempted to fight for your guys and work out what we could work out. But you could have worked out what you needed to work out with your guys and still had them here at work, and we would have been none the wiser. I mean, when you do back-to-back 8-9 day long phase 1 into a phase 2 gen exercise, and you work 14 hours a day, and you come in the next day and do another 14 hours of work every day, and you do that for a week and a half straight.
At the same time.
Right.
Coming in every day at 6 in the morning, working 14 to 8, so your circadian rhythm is perfectly the same.
To an extent, yes. Right. But if you roll in with no days off and you're working a different shift and you rolled into this other shift, and it's less...
Yeah, I've done it. I've done days, mids, and swings in 1 week.
Yeah,
and it's reckless.
Yes.
It's dangerous.
It's reckless.
Right.
So...
That doesn't make it okay that we did it here, just because it's been done in the past.
It doesn't make it okay, but it doesn't make it a fallacy that it happened, because we still were able to meet the requirements to ensure that the minimum safety was.
It was a risk assessment that we did. We
right.
sent down the 0s and the 1s, and we kept the 2s and the 3s.
Now, do I agree that it should have been 4 hours early? No, that was kind of stupid. I wouldn't do anything more than 2 hours. But
we don't even do that on
the week.
But we rarely even squadron, they don't want us moving scheduled hours. Right
now, since I got here, that I implemented that because you were fluctuating up and down before I got here. It was stupid. I'd look at the schedule. One day it's 2 hours, and it was like this, and I was just, got to stop this. And I went all the way up. The first couple of weeks I was here watching the scheduling meeting.
Right.
I can honestly say that I forced to ensure that we can keep as much of a fluid flow for our guys to maintain a little bit more safety, and actually it helps out on productivity as well.
Well, thank you.
But this was a monkey wrench, and I got it. And like I said, we're going to run into situations. This one was probably by far the most extreme situation that we hopefully will ever run into here. And we've learned from it, and we'll grow from it, and we'll make sure that the 4-hour gap and all that. But we still need to instill that these guys, hey, look, you guys still have a requirement. When you're told that you'll be in 10 hours from now, you got to go home and get the rest.
So, pilots,
12 hours.
Crew rest.
Yep.
For safety.
Yes.
So if the pilot can't sleep, even though he's given 12 hours of crew rest, if he has insomnia, he doesn't fly. What's the difference?
He loses a line. May lose his accreditation for whatever line.
But why is it that they can say you are not rested, you're not safe?
Weapons are in the same boat. They don't get to load lives if they didn't have 12 hours from work.
So we're talking about that day we were installing an engine.
Yes.
What's the difference? Common sense wise, not regulation wise. What's the difference?
Common sense to us, no difference. It should be treated the same, but we've never been allowed or afforded that opportunity to be treated the same. So because we don't have the same 12-hour rule. Right. We have 8 hours uninterrupted sleep.
But we understand the danger associated with lack of sleep for lives and for flying. We're talking about signing off red exits and certifying a jet for flight. Yes, the AFI allows us 8 hours uninterrupted rest or whatever it is, right?
But I haven't met a pilot that got his 12 hours off and then came in and gasped, so I wasn't able to.
No, it's happened here. We dropped the line for crew rest.
I'm sure it has. I'm just saying I haven't seen it or been involved directly with it.
I mean, I was
pay attention.
I was gunning for crew rest when I was up in Albuquerque. Yeah. It was I was playing beat the clock, getting that MMC repro because of crew rest.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I think we're on the same page.
Probably a dead horse.
But it's just an approach and a perspective difference that I think at the end of the day, you're looking out for more of the safety on your individuals, which ends up being safety for the aircraft. We're looking at, we need to get things accomplished and expect the guys to be able to fulfill their requirements, which are X, Y, Z.
So if we had not cut those people out and we had stuffed that motor, would you be okay with me going to Colonel Jensen saying, hey, that engine that we installed this morning on this jet was installed by people that had been up for 30 hours with no sleep when they installed that engine? Would you be okay with it? Like, could I just tell that to Colonel Jensen?
I could answer to Colonel Jensen. They were released from work. 10 hours later, they were told that they would need to come in and do this job.
Do you think he'd want that motor back out?
That job. I highly doubt it.
I think he would.
He would probably want to talk to everybody. But again, that's why we have the QBI. That's why we have all that excess inspections, ground runs, everything else. So if all that was accomplished, there's potentially he would go, yeah, okay, well, your guys were zombies and you still put them on it. We should probably look into that. I could see that happening too.
Fair enough. You might be right.
So I think that we still have means to circumvent that from happening.
Yeah, you probably won't be bringing
attention to it.
4 hours.
But again, yeah, we won't. But I can still see 2 hours, but I don't know if that guy slept 2 hours. I mean, they still come into work here today, every day. Some of them don't have sleep, some of them do.
But it's also not an entire shift. Yeah. I mean, even the crew chiefs came in and cleaned hangars. But
that was overkill. I got it. But I at the time, I probably didn't even pay attention to what the hour shifts they were on. And he's just like, "Hey, we bring them all in." I was like, "Sure, why not? It's not going to hurt anything. It's just a few hours early." That's what I was expecting, but 4 hours I didn't catch on until the next day. It's like,
okay,
that's a little extreme. So, again, if that comes up, I'll have to remember to ask those questions on time.
Well, the captain came up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, obviously I kind of screwed this up. Make sure you are a little bit more firm about that's a bad idea," which is good on him.
Yeah, at least that amount of hours, because you can always move a few hours. But if we even did for your guys that got none and you called them in 2 hours, now what do you do? Because that's what would have happened. Well, it was just 2 hours, and then really, how do we portray to these guys, hey, look, you have still need. I still think that when you're told and called, you need to try and make that effort to get that rest, whether it's great sleep your body. If you're laying in bed, lights out and zonked, and you're just zoning, and you may not go to sleep, you may not feel like you went to sleep, but at least your body's getting some rest.
Yeah, but that's not.
I know it's not.
You're still drunk equivalent.
But
if you're not going into REM sleep,
yeah,
you're not replenishing.
But I can't. Everybody's different. Every individual does different things, and we'll learn and move on from that.
Yes, sir.
So.